Instacart does nothing for drivers. Find out what I mean on this segment of the Gig Geezer. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, thanks for coming by. And if you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, hey, thanks for coming back. And if you would not mind, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. That's right, I said Instacart does nothing for drivers. Now, why would I say that? Well, today is Saturday, November 19, 2022. I'm actually starting my second half hustle a bit earlier because I happen to have a catering delivery opportunity. And so I'm taking the time that I'm spending driving out to the drop-off location to share what happened to me earlier during my first half hustle. Now, what happened during my first half hustle, I completed 6 opportunities, if you will. 2 were DoorDash orders that totaled $26.50 plus. One was a Uber Eats that was $11.84. The next was a point pickup that paid $16.61, and then I had 2 Instacart orders that initially paid $50.41. But when I went back into the app while waiting outside for this catering pickup, I noticed that the amount was now $42.21. So yeah, the amount that's showing now is $42.21. That order, what had happened was the first order paid $18 and change, and that one was really an order to a Starbucks in which the store ordered 20 gallons of 2% milk, and I was able to get 15 of the 20 gallons, and they were cool with that. The second was an order to a Kroger. The offer amount was $30 and change, and it was like 30. Initially, it was like 25 items, and then they added 3 items, which I didn't make any big deal about, but they added 3 items, okay? And so that brought the amount to about $31 and change. On that order, there were some substitutions, and then there was a refund on some spring mix, some organic spring mix. Upon dropping off the order, it turned out that these people were in an apartment, which is always a bad sign. But they were just moving into that apartment, and they were coming from up north. And it seemed as if everything was cool with them. I mean, I had communicated within the app about certain changes that were made on my part, and then I communicated to them in person about certain changes, and they seemed to be cool, right? I took picture. I actually took one of 2 pictures, but apparently the second picture didn't come out, or the second picture didn't register with my phone, and so I had only 1 picture. So apparently these people took back half of the tip. Now, in my extensive experience doing Instacart, in which I've completed over 1,500 orders, just south of 1,600 according to the app, that tells me that they've done this before, and B, more than likely, they claimed that there were missing items, and which they got refunded on. And so they took back, so the tip was adjusted, or they just intentionally, took money back from me. Of course, needless to say, I'm pissed off because this is the 3rd time it's happened to me within the last couple of months. And each time I have gone to Instacart about this, they've done nothing. But yet they put the burden of proof on us drivers, in that they'll quickly ask us, do we have pictures? Do we know the name of the customer? How the fuck am I going to remember the name of the goddamn customer? I can tell you the store. I can show you a screenshot of the order in which there's no tip there, or less tip there. I can even provide you, in most cases, pictures of the order. But you're going to ask me their fucking name. Now, why am I making an issue about this? Instacart earlier this year made a big to-do how they, or I believe it was earlier this year, Instacart made a big to-do about how they were taking steps to also look after the interests of the drivers. And one of the things that they said that they were going to do was reimburse drivers up to $10 when in the event that customers steal tips from drivers or they tip bait drivers. Now, they also qualified by saying to no fault to the driver when these customers do these things. But the fact remained, Instacart is supposed to reimburse drivers when they bring it to their attention that they've been tip baited, but that's not the way it works. I have found out over the course of these times going back to Instacart about this, when you contact Instacart, the people whom you deal with on the chat, because that's 99% of the time how it's going to happen, they are in no position to do anything in terms of reimbursing you for the stolen tip money. They say that this is all activated by Instacart's algorithm, and that there's a unit of people who supposedly monitor to the algorithm whenever these abnormalities occur. They don't do shit. They don't do a goddamn motherfucking thing. Not a motherfucking thing. And I hope that somebody from Instacart is checking out this segment of the Gig Geezer. You motherfuckers have done nothing. Nothing. But you're quick to tell people, you're quick to tell drivers when you're quick to alert drivers when customers claim that they're missing items or entire orders, and then we go back to you about it, showing proof, and you do nothing. When customers trash you for reasons unjustified, you don't do anything for that, and I've gone on and on and on about that one there. But I'm going to share with you some of the interaction, as you'll see here on your screen. I told the customer support or the driver support person up front, I know what you're supposed to do, okay? I know that you can't do anything, but you can report the person. You say, yeah. You can block the customer for me. And he says, yeah. And you can flag the customer's rating. Yes, I can do those things. And so, as you see here, the driver support person says, done all those things, and then asks, is there anything else? So I know that's about as far as it's going to go. Now, it'll be interesting to see whether I get trashed with a 1-star rating from this customer, because that's usually what happens, or that my rating does not change. As I am documenting this segment of the Gig Geezer, my Instacart rating is at 4.89. Okay, and my guess is if this support person did not flag the person, my rating is likely to drop to probably about 4.81 at the worst case scenario. That won't more than likely won't affect my ability to see quality orders, but at the same time, it's just the principle of all this shit. So, drivers, obviously what I'm sharing to you is that Instacart Instacart is all talk and no action. In fact, I think many of us from our experiences can say that many of these companies are all talk and no action. And again, I know that there are folk, I'm aware that there are folk who would rather hear much more positive things within the gig driver community. Well, I would like to share those things as well. But when things happen, this is an opportunity to at least share among other drivers something that you need to be mindful of when it happens to you, because this is how you help the community a lot of times. Sometimes it's through your bad experience that you actually help the community. At least that's just my viewpoint of things. So keep it in mind. Take it for what it's worth, I suppose. But if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button. give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below.
Alrighty, I figured that I would cut away to the gig studio just to provide a little more insight, background, or clarification to this issue about customers stealing tips or taking back all or part of the tip. Now, Instacart did, in fact, release on April 5th of this year, 2022, that it would protect drivers up to $10 in the event that customers take back the entire tip without incident, that is. Now, what it means by without incident or without issue is if you go to your ratings tab within the driver's app and you go down, you'll notice that it says other issues. And in that section, at least according to what drivers know about the order, customers will mention the entire order is missing, or in fact, you actually get an email from Instacart about that. An item or items are missing, or an item or items are damaged. Those are the supposedly reportable incident issues that can occur during while completing the order for a customer. Now, I found out that there was more to this announcement by Instacart, in which it says that, okay, we don't have to contact driver support. We will actually see an adjustment within 10 minutes. That's not true. Not true at all. This particular screenshot is one where the driver support person informed me that yes, we may be reimbursed up to $10, but we may only be reimbursed up to $100 a year. And it may take up to 24 hours before we see an adjustment. Now, Instacart did not say how it actually detects this type of pattern or behavior by a customer. Well, that's done by an algorithm. This algorithm apparently alerts a unit of employees who then investigates whether this zeroing out of a tip of a driver was actually without incident. That's what Instacart says. The next thing is that customers actually have two opportunities in which they can change tips. One is at the point of checking out the order. The second is actually within 2 hours of completing an order. Now, what we know on the app is that, at least the actual verbiage on the app is that customers have up to 2 hours to reduce a tip, but then they have 24 hours to increase a tip. Well, in the first instance, for me, that actually occurred. Apparently, the customer reduced the entire tip at the point of checkout. The second incident occurred upon completing the order, and the customer immediately reduced the entire tip, took away the entire tip. But apparently, that didn't trigger Instacart's algorithm. Neither did, in fact. Apparently, what the algorithm looks for is if, say, a customer offered a $40 tip, and then all of a sudden that $40 becomes zero. There's got to be some kind of triggering mechanism in terms of where the tip amount was first offered by the customer, then when the actual tip may have been reduced or taken back in its entirety. Well, the third incident that I've shared, which is the Kroger customer, they didn't take back the entire tip. They took back half of the tip. But I suspect that these people actually are kind of smart about how they went about things, in that they reported an incident saying that there was a damaged item when in fact there were no damaged items. And so let's face it, just as drivers know how to trick the system, customers are just as smart as well. They know how to trick the system as well. So hopefully that gives a little bit of clarity or insight or background into how Instacart actually does not handle these zeroed out tips. And if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below.
To be honest here, I actually had thought of doing a segment on this after it occurred the first time. The first time it occurred, it was some apartment chick whom I it was like 15 items from Public, and the offer amount was $15.44. Well, before I even got to the apartment with the order, this customer had already taken back the entire tip, so it didn't even look as if there was a tip on the order. I pointed this out to Instacart and all, but they told me, this is when I first learned that there is a unit that monitors the algorithm, or the algorithm alerts this unit about when these indiscrepancies or abnormalities occur. My fault with that one was that I somehow was unable to capture a screenshot of the order to start off with, and and I don't even think I took a picture of the order itself for whatever reason. I think maybe I was working multiple apps or whatever. The second time it occurred, it was with another Public order, and what happened was I did what I usually do. I took pictures of the order as I completed it at the store, and while I was en route to the customer's address, no sooner than I dropped off the order at the customer's address, I get a message from the customer claiming that there were missing items. Well, there were altogether like 14 items on the order. 14 items. And I didn't respond to it because I know that there were no missing items. But predictably, when I saw that, the entire tip was taken back by the customer. Of course, I brought that to Instacart's attention. Nothing was done. Again, I was reminded that this unit that the Instacart app algorithm alerts of these abnormalities are the ones who handle this. So you get where I'm going with this now. And now it happens again today. And it was after that second time I truly thought of doing a Gig Geezer segment on it. But then I'm like, okay, I make enough money throughout the week where $6 on that time, $8 that time, no big deal. I'll get that back possibly in a customer cash in hand tip, or whatever. I may get a good order opportunity in which, that's all insignificant. Well, it's still the principle of it that why this happens. You go out and make the effort that you make to complete these orders. In this particular case, this shit was taken up to the third floor of a fucking apartment. In fact, ironically, there were some movers who were also moving in stuff for these people at the same time. And I know what they were dealing with as well, trekking up and down those stairs with all their furniture and personal items and all. So it's just what you go through, and then you basically hold your breath for a couple of hours, at least to know that what you made is at least solidified. But then you actually wait until the next day when the app updates, that you really can either breathe a sigh of relief or react in disgust because the customer decides to trash you or claim that something's missing and all. Too often customers claim that items are missing, a wrong item, and they're full of shit because, the app alerts them of the substitutions that you're going to make or will make, and they have an opportunity at that moment to say whether they want it or not. So if you go ahead with it, then it implies that, hey, they agree, they approve of the decisions that were made. Conversely, though, if you make the decision not to go through with the item, it's a catch-22. You're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. It seems on some of these apps, particularly with Instacart. And so then you ask, well, Geezer, why the fuck do you keep doing the app? Because it's another option, okay? It's another fucking option. It's an opportunity to make money. And most of the times, you don't have to deal with this shit. But when it happens, it just annoys the fuck out of me. And I hope you can tell my frustration of it, because I think you know based on what I do, the money that I make, those of you who are familiar with my channel, I put in an honest effort every day. And to see these type of things, it's just very annoying. But when it comes to customers who take back all or part of a tip, there's no way of safeguarding yourself from that, because the app empowers the customer in which they can do these things. And again, those of you who work a W-2, I mean, imagine working the entire pay period. It's now time to be paid, and the employer says, well, you know what, I don't think you should be paid all that you're entitled to be paid. Police may be dispatched from you beating the shit out that person. Police may be dispatched because you killed that person. Or there's going to be a fucking lawsuit that they will lose. And that's really what should happen with these app companies. These app companies, and this is why this particular segment of the Gig Geezer was posted about my filing a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission against Instacart. Instacart has stolen at least 50 million from us drivers since March 2020. At least 50 million. At least 50 million. And when you factor in stolen tips, in which, at least as of this year, in which Instacart has not followed up or followed through with reimbursing drivers for stolen tips, they say up to $10. And imagine how many cases there have been. I'm one case today. You can imagine there's probably at least 100 cases, at least 1,000 cases, but let's just say at least 100 cases. So 100 times 10 is 1,000. And so these things occur every day, all right? And if memory serves me correct, this has been out since like April. So we're now talking 7 months. So you're talking then 7 months, 210 times 1,000. Shit, man, that's a quarter of a, that's a $250,000 that Instacart has probably not paid out the drivers in terms of tips that were stolen from us. So it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And so, you know what? In the context of why these companies are in the crosshairs of the Federal Trade Commission, this is why. This is the shit why these companies are in the crosshairs of the Federal Trade Commission. This is also why some of these companies are trying to fight with such vehemence about guaranteed minimum pay, because of shit like this as well. But that's another segment of the Gig Geezer that is upcoming. And so, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane, and as always, may your hustle and may your grind continue.